At 62 years old, when the world thought Michael Jordan had made peace with every ghost from his past, he suddenly broke his silence. In a rare and brutally honest conversation, the Chicago Bulls legend revealed 5 names he never wants to shake hands with again. A shocking confession. Unexpected. Raw. But behind that list lies something deeper, decades of pride, betrayal, and wounds that never truly healed. Why now? Why, after all the trophies, the glory, and the endless praise, would Jordan finally open this chapter? What happened between these men, teammates, rivals, icons, that still burns in the heart of basketball's greatest competitor? And with that, we come to his list. 5 names, 5 stories, 5 scars carved into the history of the game. Let's begin with number 5. Number 5, Isiah Thomas. He was once the Prince of Detroit, the fearless leader of the Bad Boys Pistons. Michael Jordan's greatest obstacle in the late 80s. A rivalry that was more than basketball, it was war. Back then, every game between Chicago and Detroit was a battlefield. Hard fouls, bloody lips, no mercy. And at the center of it all stood Isiah Thomas, smiling, calculating, provoking. In 1991, the Bulls finally dethroned the Pistons. Jordan stood tall, ready to shake hands, ready to close a brutal chapter with dignity. But Isiah and his teammates walked off the court. No handshake, no respect, no closure. That moment became legendary, not for victory, but for humiliation. Insiders say Jordan never forgave it. Respect, he once said, is earned in defeat, not just in victory. And in that instant, Isiah lost his place in Jordan's world forever. Years passed. The 2 men aged, but the wound never healed. When The Last Dance aired, Jordan's words cut deep once again. He called that act classless. Isiah replied that he had nothing to apologize for. Even 3 decades later, their eyes never meet the same way. What began as competition ended as contempt. And in Jordan's mind, Isiah Thomas became the man whose handshake never came. Number 4, Charles Barkley. They were once inseparable, 2 giants of the game, 2 alphas who ruled the 90s. Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley shared the same hunger, the same fire, the same love for chaos. They played golf together. They laughed, gambled, and trusted each other like brothers. But fame doesn't forgive honesty, and one interview changed everything. Years after retirement, Barkley went on air and criticized Jordan, not as a player but as an owner. He said Jordan had surrounded himself with yes men, that he was too stubborn to succeed in management. It was a sting, sharp and public. Insiders recall that Jordan called him immediately. The conversation was short, explosive. After that day, they never spoke again. Barkley has repeated the story countless times, always with a trace of regret. He still calls Jordan the greatest ever. But Jordan? He never answered. Not once. Witnesses from those days say Jordan felt betrayed, not by the words, but by who said them. When loyalty is everything, criticism feels like treason. And so, one of basketball's strongest friendships turned to silence. No more golf, no more laughter. Just 2 men, once brothers, now strangers. In Jordan's private list, Charles Barkley isn't a rival. He's a reminder that betrayal sometimes wears a familiar smile. Number 3, Scottie Pippen. They built an empire together. 6 championships, 2 legends, 1 dynasty that changed basketball forever. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, their names were once inseparable. On the court, they moved like one body, one mind. But behind the trophies, the tension was always there, quiet, invisible, waiting to explode. When The Last Dance documentary aired, the world watched in awe. But for Pippen, it was a knife in the back. He felt misrepresented and reduced to a supporting role in someone else's story. Nothing, he later said, about that show was real to me. Insiders revealed that Pippen felt humiliated, years of sacrifice, overshadowed by Jordan's legend. He spoke out, his words sharp and heavy. He accused Jordan of selfishness, of taking too much credit, of using teammates as props. The fallout was brutal. Jordan stayed silent, but those who knew him said he was hurt, deeply. Pippen's book, his interviews, his bitterness, it all built a wall between them that may never come down. 2 men who once trusted each other with everything, now can't even stand in the same room. For Jordan, Scottie wasn't just a teammate, he was a brother who turned away. And that perhaps is the wound that cuts deepest. Number 2, Reggie Miller. He called him Black Jesus. But on the court, Reggie Miller treated Michael Jordan like a mortal enemy. From the first time they met, sparks flew. Miller was fearless, a trash talk artist who dared to stare into Jordan's eyes and never blink. And Jordan, the ultimate competitor, never forgot a challenge. It was the early 90s, the Pacers against the Bulls. Every possession felt like a war. In one infamous game, Miller shoved Jordan, chaos erupted, and both men were thrown out. Insiders still recall the words Jordan spat on his way off the floor. "Don't ever talk to me again." Years later, the rivalry burned hotter. 1998, playoffs, Game 4. Miller hit the impossible shot over Jordan to steal the win. He screamed, pumped his fists, defied the god of basketball himself. Jordan just glared, emotionless, the kind of silence that cuts deeper than words. Behind the scenes, witnesses said Jordan respected Miller's courage, but he never forgave the disrespect. To him, Miller wasn't just a rival. He was the man who dared to mock the throne. Even now, whenever their names appear together, that fire still flickers. Two men defined by competitiveness, trapped in a rivalry that neither ever truly won. For Jordan, Reggie Miller will always be number 2 on that secret list, the one who dared to challenge his airness and walked away smiling. Number 1, Gary Payton. He was called the Glove, the man who could guard anyone, but even he couldn't escape the myth of Michael Jordan. Their paths collided in the 1996 NBA Finals. The Seattle Supersonics were young, fearless, and led by Gary Payton, a relentless defender with a mouth as sharp as his game. He taunted, he talked, he clawed at Jordan every second of every possession. And for a moment, it worked. Payton slowed him down. He forced the legend to struggle, something no one dared to believe was possible. But years later, in The Last Dance, came the moment that froze time. Payton sat in an interview claiming he tired Jordan out, that he got to him. Then they showed the clip to Jordan. He looked at the tablet and laughed. That cold, silent, dismissive laugh. No words, just that laugh. The sound of pride, of dominance, of unfinished business. Insiders say Payton was furious. He felt disrespected, mocked on a global stage. And Jordan? He never apologized, never explained. For him, Gary Payton embodied the one thing he could never tolerate, someone who dared to claim equality. It wasn't about hatred, it was about legacy. Jordan's story has always been written in competition, and in that story, there can only be one king. So Gary Payton stands at number 1, the rival who made him laugh, and reminded him that even gods hate being questioned. 5 names, 5 rivalries that defined a legend. But behind them all, there's one more name, the only one that truly mattered. Insiders say Jordan's greatest enemy was never Isiah, Barkley, Pippen, Miller, or Payton. It was himself. The voice that demanded perfection, the pride that couldn't forgive, the fire that built him and burned everything around him. Now, at 62, he stands alone, an icon, untouchable yet haunted. Time has turned the noise of the crowd into silence, and in that silence, the truth echoes. Glory fades, but the scars remain. Because even the greatest of all time must face the same rival we all do, the one in the mirror.